Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 37 of the BoxHard podcast. I'm your host, Joey Coastman. I'm joined, as always, by Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how you doing?
I'm good, Joey. How are you?
Very good, very good. We're going to jump straight into part one. There's a lot to review. We're going to talk about the card that took place on Thursday at the York Hall. I actually went to this one. We're going to start with a couple of the fights on the undercard. Charlie Driscoll made his debut. He picked up a points win after 4 rounds. He had a lot of fans in attendance. It was quite incredible for someone on their debut. Also on the bill, Boy Jones Jr., he picked up a TKO in the 3rd round. He moved to 9-0 with the 1 draw. He looked very impressive, Boy Jones Jr., landing a lot of big punches and going to the body a lot, which I like to see. He really did impress me, Boy Jones Jr. Also on the bill, Joe Fitzpatrick moved to 5-0 with a points win after 4 rounds. Archie Sharp moved to 5-0 with a points win after 4 rounds. Sammy McNess moved to 5-0 with a TKO in the 3rd round. His opponent was down 3 times in the 3rd round. He looked very sharp as well, Sammy McNess. Johnny Coyle was also on the bill. He moved to 14-0. Of course, he's got that 1 draw. He fought tough man Lee Gillespie. Now, I tell you what, it was a good fight. This was a points win after 8 rounds for Johnny Coyle, but he really had to dig deep. It was good. It was a really good fight to watch. And also, Darrell Williams moved to 14-0 with a points win over Adam Jones. Adam Jones, a journeyman with 6 wins, 15 losses, and 4 draws. He's never been stopped, and he wasn't stopped here. He was really tough as they come. That was it for the Thursday one. But like I say, I was at that event in York Hall, and also the following day on the Friday there was another event at York Hall which I attended as well. Charlie Duffield was on the bill. He was supposed to win this fight. He fought a journeyman who had a record of 5 wins, 18 losses and 2 draws going into this fight. Charlie Duffield 3-0. Well, he had too much experience for the youngster. Charlie Duffield failed to win this one. He was cut above the left eye. I'm not sure what round it was. I think it was round 3, round 4. And his opponent, Vladimir Idranyi, I think I've got it right there. He just had too much experience for him. He landed the better shots, and he really done well. I was actually quite pleased for him, despite me wanting Charlie Duffield to win the fight. I really thought that Idranyi done absolutely fantastic. He deserved to win. You know, he was absolutely knackered after the 1st round, but he still managed to land the better shots. So credit to him. Also on the bill, Jez Smith moved to 7-0 with a points win after 4 rounds over Danny Little. Leon Woodstock, with some seriously crazy hair going on, he moved to 7-0 with a points win after 6 rounds. Tom Baker moved to 14-0 with a TKO in the 5th round. He had his opponent down in the 1st as well. Also on the bill, we'll be speaking to him momentarily. Anthony Yarde moved to 7-0 with a TKO in the 2nd round. His opponent was down twice in the 2nd round. Really impressive, Anthony Yarde. Again, he's only fought a journeyman. I say he's a journeyman. The guy he fought has only had 4 fights. He's only had 6 fights himself, Anthony Yarde. But the guy he fought has got 1 win and 3 losses. But Anthony Yarde really did impress me, as he always seems to do. Especially with the first knockdown in the 2nd round. He sort of leaned back and countered him with a straight right, and it put him down. So really impressive stuff. And top of that bill, disappointing stuff here. Really disappointing stuff. Enzo Maccarinelli, 41-7 going into this fight. This was his 49th professional fight. So he's had as many fights as Mayweather now. He fought Dmitry Kucher, who had a record of 23 wins, 1 loss and 1 draw going into this bout. Dmitry Kucher stopped Enzo Maccarinelli in the 1st round. Very disappointing to see up close. Enzo Maccarinelli, I don't know if it was underestimating, I'm not too sure. He just came out, threw some decent shots, and then that was it. A combination got landed on Enzo Maccarinelli. He got caught quite clear. I'm not too sure if it was a left or a right now that initially stunned him and staggered him, but Kucha definitely capitalised on that. Landed a few more good punches, and that was it. Enzo Maccarinelli went down, tried to get back up, kept falling down. He was in all sorts of trouble, Enzo Mac. And of course, Kucha gets an impressive win here. No one's done that to Enzo Maccarinelli. So Kucha now 24 wins, 1 loss and 1 draw. Both those blemishes very disputable on his record. So Enzo Maccarinelli, I think he's going to retire from the sport of boxing. I haven't actually seen an official statement, but I know the next day he basically put out a tweet just saying, sorry, I've had a great career, blah, blah, blah. And he ordered himself a huge Domino's pizza, which I was a little bit envious of. But yeah, Enzo Maccarinelli, I think if he does hang up the gloves, he's done a lot for boxing. There's no doubt Enzo Maccarinelli's brought us a lot of excitement. You know, former world champ, been in a lot of good fights. Of course, fought David Hay and some others. You know, he's brought us some good nights of boxing, hasn't he, Ayaz, if we're being completely honest.
Yeah, he's had his good nights, and obviously he's brought excitement to boxing, and obviously it's a shame that he's going to be retiring now.
Yeah, and of course he's got that marquee win over a very ancient Roy Jones Jr., but it's still a win over someone who was considered one of the best pound-for-pound fighters on the planet at one stage. That's it for Friday. We're now going to move over to Saturday. We're going to talk about a card that took place in Los Angeles at the Badminton Club. Joey Diaz Jr. moved to 22-0. His opponent was stopped on his stall. I think the referee stopped the bout in the corner before round 4. So I think it goes down as a retirement from the fight. So nonetheless, Joey Diaz Jr. picks up his 22nd professional win and another KO win there. But that's it for that one in the USA. We're now going to go over to the Turning Stone Resort and Casino. Top of the bill, Ruslan Provodnikov against John Molina Jr. This was for the vacant WBO International Super Lightweight title, the 140 title. Everybody picked Ruslan Provodnikov to win. I actually thought it was going to be a really tough test because I know that John Molina Jr. always comes to fight despite having 6 losses on his record. He really does come to fight. He's a big puncher as well. I'm not too sure about his own chin, but I've seen him get knocked down by people who can punch. So it's not like he's got a weak chin or anything like that. But John Molina, he really impressed me. He was showing us his jab. He was a little bit like Provodnikov. You know, Provodnikov, when he fights fighters who have a good jab and good movement and, you know, good on their feet, he seems to struggle. We've seen him in there against Algieri. We've seen that loss. Timothy Bradley, who was all day long a better fighter than Provodnikov, he didn't even jab in that fight. He just came to fight him, basically, and he just sort of scraped not getting knocked out Timothy Bradley in that fight. That was really, I think that was fight of the year 2013 maybe. But yeah, Provodnikov, he just cannot, when fighters are not prepared to stand there and trade in the pocket, he looks very, very average, to be honest. He was landing decent shots, he really was, but John Molina Jr. was too. And John Molina Jr. picks up the unanimous decision win after 12 rounds. Like I say, a lot of people didn't think this would be going the distance. I think I said that on last week's show, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, Provodnikov, his new record, 25 wins, 5 losses. So it's looking less and less impressive by the fight at the moment, Provodnikov. He seemed to be very disheartened in the post-fight press conference. He had tears in his eyes. He looked like he was upset. I don't know what he's going to do from here. Maybe he's going to make a big decision. Maybe he'll call it a day. I don't really know what's going on outside of the ring, but he just didn't look hungry enough. It wasn't the usual Provodnikov. But like I say, when people use their jab and box well against him and they're good at boxing on the back foot, which we didn't really know that John Molina Jr. was, but he showed us some good stuff on that night. But anyway, that's it for that fight. Also on that bill, Willie Monroe Jr. picked up his 20th career victory with a unanimous decision after 10 rounds over John Thompson. Also on the bill, Dejan Zlatikanin picked up the vacant WBC World Lightweight title. He had his opponent down in the 3rd round where it was stopped. So Zlatikanin, 22 wins now, unbeaten with another knockout on his record. Also on that bill, really, really, really impressed me. I was happy to see him. I know that he had a little fight last year, just at the end. I think it was December. Demetrius Andrade. I think he knocked his guy out in the second round in December. So we hadn't seen him because there was a huge layoff. There was a lot going on with the promotional issues with Andrade, or Andrade, I should call him. So Demetrius Andrade took on Willie Nelson, who's a good fighter. So I thought it was going to be a good fight, but I did think Andrade would win. And Andrade really did impress me. He really, really did. He come out in the first round, knocked his opponent down. Willie Nelson is no mug at all, as I say. And Andrade absolutely won every round. He then put him down in the 11th as well, and then he went down twice, all from big shots. Willie Nelson went down twice in the 12th round, so he was down 4 times during this fight, and it was called a halt in the 12th round after that 4th knockout. So Demetrius Andrade, 23-0 now. He was calling out the Charlo brothers. Of course, Liam Smith is holding his previous belt. Andrade held the WBO belt, but Liam Smith has got it now. But Andrade, I cannot wait to see him back in that picture. I think he's definitely going to capture another title, and he really is a force to be reckoned with. Definitely on his day, when we see him active again, I think if he was fighting as he was fighting before that little layoff that he had with the promotional issues, he was definitely in my pound for pound top 5, top 10 list, definitely, without a doubt. Anyway, that's it for the Turning Stone Casino. We're now going to go over to Madison Square Garden. Top of the bill, Roman Martinez. He put his WBO World Super Featherweight title on the line against Vasyl Lomachenko. This was going to be Lomachenko's 7th professional fight and his chance to win 2 world titles in 2 different weight divisions inside 7 fights, which had never ever been done. It had been done inside 8, but he was going to set a new record here. Roman Martinez come out, of course, his game. He tried to fight with Lomachenko, but ultimately he lost every round. He got KO'd in the 5th round. Martinez was down and counted out in that round. And Lomachenko, what a knockdown that was, Ayaz. I know you saw the fight. What did you think of Lomachenko? How impressed were you?
I was very impressed with Lomachenko. I reckon, for me, he's pound for pound boxer, because obviously he went from featherweight, winning a world title after his 3rd fight. Wasn't it a 2nd fight?
Yeah, his third fight.
Third fight, and then now in his 7th fight, he's won a world title, but up in super featherweight. Obviously, the way Lomachenko fought Roman Martinez by knocking him out, what a performance! And I have to tell you, this guy is special in boxing.
Yeah, I think I can echo those words. This guy is special. There's no 2 ways about that. Also on that bill, Felix Verdejo yet again defended his WBO Latino lightweight title successfully with a TKO in the 5th round. So Verdejo moves to 22-0. As I said, I really want to see him stepped up now because I think he's a good fighter. Zhu Shiming was also on the bill. He picked up a unanimous decision win after 10 rounds, so he moves to 8 wins and 1 loss. His win over Joseph Ajtai. Ajtai had a point off in the 6th for holding, so Shiming defends his WBO International Flyweight title. And also on that bill, we had him on the show previously, Mike, yes indeed, Reed. He moved to 19-0 with a TKO in the 6th round, and he also had his man down in the 1st, so a good win there for Mike Reed. Anyway, that's it for the reviewing on this week's show. We're now going to welcome our first guest. Okay, now it's time for our first guest on this week's show. The light heavyweight prospect, 7-0 with 6 knockouts, all inside 2 rounds. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Anthony Yarde. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Thanks, how are you?
Yeah, very good, bro. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Just chilling out now.
Yeah, chilling out. Now, as you know, I was there in attendance on Friday to see what really looked like a punch-perfect performance. How did it feel in there, Anthony?
Oh, thank you. It felt good, man. At the stage of my career, I'm still learning, I'm still building. I'm happy that the things that I'm working on in training are coming off in the fights. Because us as boxers, that's what we train for us to perform under the lights. And that's what's happening so far. So I'm happy with the way things are going.
The first knockdown I especially liked. It was a beautiful counter punch. I saw some stuff in your arsenal that looked really classy. Your movement looked fantastic.
Thank you.
Let's not kid ourselves. The guy was no world beater, but you really did put on a masterclass. How would you rate that performance out of 10?
Well, for myself, I just feel like I need to get better each and every fight, and I believe that in the 7 fights I've had, I've been happy with my performances. Opponents, I can only deal with what's been put in front of me. I've had hard times with getting opponents. For this fight, I had a decent opponent that had, I think he had 10 fights. He knocked out 7 of them and lost, I think, 7 fights. So that would have been a good building fight for me, a better test. But the guy pulled out last minute, so they had to find a last minute replacement. But anyway, I don't really focus on that. That's not really my job. My job is to just be ready for who is put in front of me.
As mentioned earlier, you've got 6 early knockouts now. In your honest opinion, what do you like more, going rounds and picking up, the experience that money can't buy, or knocking people out and bringing excitement to the fans, getting your name buzzing almost?
A bit of both, really, because sometimes when you go long rounds, literally, as you just said, that's experience you can't buy, which I feel like sometimes I need. But sometimes it's just a punch. Like, you might hit somebody with a clean shot and they can't take the shot. But again, I think boxing's an entertaining sport. When I watch boxing myself, I either like to see a boxing masterclass where there's this absolute pure skill, or I like to see a nice knockout. Nothing's worse than you see in a fight when they're just jabbing each other back to back, and then it's a boring fight. But which is boxing, it can happen, depends on the two styles that fight each other. But it's always exciting to get knockouts. That's why when I first went into boxing, I was so intrigued with Mike Tyson, because he was a small guy knocking out big guys. And I was thinking, what, this guy looks like a midget compared to these other guys. But he was knocking out everyone. So, there's excitement in knockouts, man. So I don't really go in there saying, oh yeah, I'm going to knock them out in this round, I'm going to go for the knockout. But it happens. And that's because you're landing clean shots and you're putting your work together. I'm not going to sit there and start holding back and start saying I'm going to tap him for a couple of rounds, because, mistakes in boxing are fatal, as we know.
Of course, but no, it's a good way going forward. You fought 3 times already this year. You're 7-0 now. How many fights would you like to have by the end of the year? And have you got any idea when you're next out?
There's no announcements yet of when I'm next out, but I haven't really done it by calendar year. I've done it from when I had my debut. I had my debut May last year, so it's just been just over a year now. I've had 7 fights. So it's been, for nowadays, that's quite a bit. That's a lot of fights within 1 year. So I just like to keep going at this pace. So by next year, May, I would say I would like to have another 4 or 5 fights minimum.
Yeah. Now, I know that I've heard that it's a bit hard to get you sparring. Does that affect your game at all? And I just wanted to ask, who have you sparred with? If there's anyone that we might know, any big names that we might know, please let us know.
I wouldn't really say it's hard to get me sparring, because I just really focus on myself. I really believe that sparring comes with timing, as well as same as when you're doing the fight. When I don't feel like it's, for me personally, it's all opinion. I don't feel like it's good to always have hard brawling spars. I like spars where you get to learn and do and pick things up and learn from what you're doing, mistakes and things like that. But I've had some decent spars. I've sparred a couple of light heavyweights that are up and coming as well. Recent spars I've had with Dion Juma. I sparred Tom Baker. Nathan Keverly. I sparred. These are my most recent spars. I sparred James DeGill, I think, last year. Chris Eubank Jr. I sparred James DeGill a few times, actually. I used to spar Over McKenzie. Some American people I sparred. What's his name? Andrew Tabiti, who signed to Floyd Mayweather. I sparred Michael Hunter. He spars in Floyd Mayweather's gym now as well.
Michael Hunter, you say?
Yeah, Michael Hunter. He's a heavyweight.
Yeah, good fighter. Yeah, that's right. He's moved from heavyweight down to cruiserweight. But yeah, he was an Olympian as well. Very good fighter. Yeah, that's an impressive lot. That is an impressive lot, especially Nathan Cleverly, as you said. Go on, carry on.
Not Nathan Cleverly. It was what's the guy that actually fought Oval? I forget his name. I'm actually friends with him. Yeah, but he just go blank for a minute. Yeah. He recently retired though, but I sparred him. So we've had some good sparring, but on a day-to-day basis where you have my most regular spars, it's really just like a lot of technical sparring. I do my other training as well, but not really to talk too much. But I don't feel you don't really need hard sparring all the time. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, it's all about learning, especially at this stage as well. I know that you watch the sport as well, Anthony. I know that you watch quite a bit of fighting as well. Who's your favourite fighter right now to watch? Because it's again, it comes down to, as you say, you like masterclass boxing, and these
Yeah,
days at the minute with Mayweather hanging up the gloves, there's not too much of that. There's Andre Ward, of course, but there's a lot of people just knocking people out. Your Golovkins, your Kovalevs, also in your
yeah.
division. Who do you like watching the most right now?
Aside from Floyd, because Floyd would be my number one person to watch,
Yeah.
mainly because his skill is outstanding. The art of the sport is to hit and not get hit. But obviously, with Floyd retiring, I do think he might come back for the 50th. Not sure yet. But as of right now, the people that are actually impressive to watch would be Andre Ward. Obviously, he's been in and out of injuries and things like that. Someone I actually really like to watch is Lemachenko. I think he's a good artist at breaking down the fighter. I also like to watch people like you just said, Golovkin, because he's getting all the knockouts and things like that. Joshua's been impressive with his knockouts. Him being a British fighter as well. English heavyweight division getting exciting again. With David Hay and Shannon Briggs, they're looking like they're going to fight in September. So yeah, boxing coming back. So it's getting exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Now, light heavyweight isn't the most sought after division in British boxing.
Yeah,
Undoubtedly, the best we have at the moment, Nathan Cleverly. I think he's on his own level really for now. There's a lot of guys, a bit behind him domestically. Is there anyone domestically that you've got your eye on at all? Again, I know that you're only starting out, you're only 7-0, but is there anyone that you've eyed up at all?
people have asked me this question before, but really and truly, and I'm not even joking or planning it when I say this. I'm just focused on myself right now. I believe I have the ability to beat everyone in Britain at the moment, but I just need to keep focusing on myself. I'm not calling no one out. I don't really say I necessarily want to fight anybody because Nathan Cleverly could retire tomorrow. He's gone up and down the weight. I think he said that he was going to retire before as well. So really and truly, I'm not really looking at any names. I'm looking at myself, Anthony Yarde. I need to progress myself and become a better Anthony Yarde, and everything else will follow. That's just what I'm focused on, just myself.
Yeah, no, you can't argue with that.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you went out to Vegas. You watched Floyd Mayweather train.
Yeah.
Have you taken anything from watching him? Have you learnt anything apart from that beautiful counterpunch the other day? That really was a bit Mayweather-esque. I tell you what, I was sitting ringside. I was in the front row. I saw it, and it was one of those punches because you linked back. You didn't step back. You sort of moved back laterally and come back with that straight right, and it was just.
Yeah.
It was one of them ones. Sometimes you see a knockdown and you're like, oh my God, it wasn't one of them. It was just like, wow. It was one of those wow moments, It's just like, wow, this kid, wow. So
Thank you, man.
apart from using one of his special counter punches, did you learn anything training wise that you want to steal from him?
100%. I wouldn't really say it's stealing. People say that with the way that I train and the pad work I do and things like that, it's mimicking Floyd Mayweather. Really and truly, it's not. I've seen him train. Floyd Mayweather has certain patterns that he does over and over again with different combinations. So I think he has about 10 or 15 different combinations that have a lot of punches in them. My combinations with my coach are completely different. I do have another guy who punches that does it similar to Floyd Mayweather. But I've definitely taken a lot from watching Floyd train. He trains different than anyone I've ever seen train before. It's at a different pace, it's at a different rate, the consistency is different, and he's always different. When I went out there, I got to meet a few people I wanted to meet. I got to meet 50 Cent as well. I sit down and talk with him. These are all majorly successful people, and it's like they all have one thing I picked up off of them. They all have a mind frame, and that's something I picked up. I think that was the most beneficial thing to me out of everything. They all have a certain mind frame in terms of success and how they think about success and their priorities. So I thought that was the main thing. I went to Vegas the first time in 2012. I've been 3 times altogether. I met Floyd twice there, and when I sat down, I spoke to Floyd. Just how we spoke about boxing and business, and how he prioritizes things, and nothing else matters. When he's got a fight coming up, nothing else matters. So that's something I've taken into my stride.
Yeah, that's good. It's good to hear you say that because, a lot of people they say, boxing is a big mental game. It's not just physical.
100%.
So when when people go to, they go out to Vegas and they mix with people that are at the top of the sport, they almost look out for a lot of physical stuff to try and replicate. But it's good that you've gone there and picked up some mental addition as well. I'm happy to hear you say that. Again, your division a bit exciting. Like on the world level, you've got Kovalev and Stevenson. Everybody wants to see this fight. It doesn't look like it's going to happen, but if it did take place, who have you got, and will the winner beat Andre Ward?
I would say if Adonis Stevenson and Kovalev fought right now, I think in terms of activity and last performances, I'll have to give it to Kovalev. I think he'll have a big confidence factor going into the fight. Stevenson, if you look at his fights, because he got big not recently, but he got big within like his last 5 fights. The fight before that, he had a few fights that he struggled with. And Kovalev, he's a monster. He's knocking over people with jabs and things like that. So and from what I've noticed, he can box. So I think it will be a good fight. Stevenson being southpaw, you don't know how he will handle the straight left, but I think it's a very intriguing matchup. But I'll have to give it to Kovalev, and I think Kovalev will win it. Also, I think if any of them fought Andre Ward, there's power, there's speed, and these things, but Andre Ward has a very smart boxing brain, and he can fight as well. Like when he wants to get rough, he can get rough. But I think in terms of boxing brain and strategy, all them kind of things, Andre Ward will beat both of them.
Yeah, fair point. Okay, Anthony, before we let you go, I just wanted to give you a chance to, I know you got a bunch of sponsors. I wanted to give you a chance to thank your sponsors and anyone you want to thank, and also give out your social media accounts and stuff so that people can follow you. Okay,
my social media, Instagram is Mr. That's Mr. Anthony Yarde. That's ANTHONY YARDE. And that's the same for the Twitter. Snapchat is AYard1. And I want to just thank Boxing Guru. He's my social media sponsor. Stamina for Sale. That's my training group. And Box Nation TV, Frank Warren TV. I should have some news coming out soon, but I can't really expose that yet. But yeah, for now, that'll be it really.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Anthony, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I really mean that. We speak to a lot of guys coming up. It's always good to speak to a promising prospect, and one that I can really see going places in yourself. So it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for giving us a bit of time this week, brother. And when that news does come out, make sure you send me a text straight away.
I will do, definitely.
Take care, my friend. Thank you very much.
Brother. Thank you. Bless.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, is the preview part. But before we get into that, we've been missing the news the last few weeks. We forgot to bring you the news piece, which is Ayaz's piece of the show, which of course he's very good at. So Ayaz, bring us in the news for this week of boxing.
WBA World Lightweight Champion Anthony Crolla will face WBC Champion Jorge Linares in a unification fight on September 24th.
Oh, what a fight. This is a huge fight. I love to see the unification fights made. Of course, Linares come over and fought Kevin Mitchell in a really good fight. Was that the Raw Britannia card, that one?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that was a good fight. And Kevin Mitchell, of course, the referee stopped it. He had a very nasty cut on his eye. And Linares is a good fighter, so this is going to be a real good fight. I'm not sure who the favourite will be. It's that close. Crolla's been so impressive lately. I really hope he can do it, but I can't wait for that one.
Josh Warrington will face Patrick Hyland in Leeds on July 30th.
Oh, another good fight. Patrick Hyland, very good fighter. Only 2 losses, both losses to good guys. He recently got the loss to Gary Russell Jr. We had Patrick Hyland on the show before, so we'll probably get him on again before that. But no, really nice man, really good fighter. And obviously he's coming off of that loss, so it'll be interesting to see what he brings here. But if he comes in with the right mind frame, I really think he could beat Warrington. But of course, Warrington a bit unknown quantity. We've seen him not look spectacular against European level fighters. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. But that's an intriguing clash. That one is July 30th, you say, Ayaz?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Is there any more news?
Yeah, and finally, Deontay Wilder will defend his WBC heavyweight title against Chris Arreola in Birmingham, Alabama on July 16th.
Oh, this guy, Chris Arreola, I've never known someone to end up in these big fights for not really doing anything. You know, we've seen him get stopped against Stiverne, and then Stiverne becomes the WBC champion, and then ends up losing his title basically every round he lost to Deontay Wilder that fight. And then next thing you know, he's got a shot, against the guy who beat the guy that knocked him out. I know styles make fights, but I really don't understand how Areola keeps landing these big shots. I think he'll get knocked out. But I will tell you one thing about Areola. He always comes to fight for the first 3 rounds. If it goes past those first 3 rounds, I think he'll be absolutely gassed and he'll probably walk onto one. But he will come in that first round. He goes for it. He really does. He just comes to it and he'll start windmilling in the first round. So that'd be interesting. Is that it for the news, Ayaz, on this week's show?
Yes, it is. That's the news.
Okay. All right, now we're going to go over to, of course, the previewing. We're going to preview. There's not many fights to preview on this week's show. There really is not many fights coming up this weekend. It's just about 2 fights, so it's not going to take too long at all. Juan Carlos Payano is defending his WBA Super World Bantamweight title against Rashea Warren. I think I've said that right. Payano 17-0. Of course, as I said, he holds the WBA Super title. That, Jamie McDonald's mentioned this guy a lot, and I'd like to see that fight. Rashea Warren 13-1. He's one loss to Juan Carlos Payano, and it was a split decision loss. That was in August of 2015. So the rematch is on the 18th, which is this Saturday of June. So that's it for that fight. Also on that bill, both of these fights, by the way, taking place in Chicago, Illinois. Andre Fonfara, good fighter. He really made his name by getting a close loss to Adonis Stevenson, in my opinion anyway. So Fonfara is fighting Joe Smith Jr. Joe Smith Jr. with a record of 21-1. His one loss coming quite early in his career to a guy who didn't have a very good record, but he's got himself in a decent position. This Joe Smith Jr. He's kind of just on the brink of becoming in the top 15 of some of the sanctioning bodies. And Fonfara 28-3. Of course, his most recent loss to Adonis Stevenson, but he's looked good since then with a win over Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. and Nathan Cleverly. So I think Fonfara will come through this one with flying colours. A good fighter, Fonfara. I'd like to see him get another shot, maybe to one of the other champions. But yeah, and also we should mention on this week's show, just the last fight to mention, over in Lewiston, USA. Steve Collins Jr., he's in his 9th professional fight. It's only a 6-rounder at cruiserweight, and he faces Jose Humberto Corral, who has a record of 19 wins and 21 losses. As I said, the previewing wouldn't be too long. There's only 2 or 3 fights that we mentioned there, and that's really it for the previewing on this week's show. There's not too much to preview, which means that there won't be too much to review next week, but the week after that, next week's show will be the one before the Joshua defense of his IBF World Heavyweight title. So that'll be a good show, I'm hoping. Hopefully we can get a couple of the guys that are on that bill on next week's show. But yeah, that's it for the preview. And we're now going to welcome our second guest. Okay, now it's time for guest number 2 on this week's show. A trainer that was involved in a fight on the weekend. Also a trainer that looked after one of the biggest names in boxing a couple of years back now. He was in the spotlight himself, but now he's dropped out a little bit, but he's happy to do that. It's, of course, Paddy Fitzpatrick. Paddy, welcome to the show.
How you doing, brother?
Yeah, very good, very good. Now, the first thing I wanted to ask you, Paddy, was, of course, you was in the corner with Luke the Duke Watkins on Saturday. I know that it was one of those fights where he learned a lot from. I know that there was a knockdown that he got up and managed to win the fight. Could you tell us a bit about that fight?
Good fight. Great fight for the crowd. He got dropped quite heavy, actually, in the second round. He got dropped heavy. He got back up, composed himself. 30 seconds later, dropped the other dude. Finished the round strong. Won every round on the cards, and then stopped the dude on the 5th. So it was a good learning fight. You never want to see your dude on the canvas, but if you are going to see him there, you'd like to see him respond the way Duke responded.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know that obviously you look after a couple of other fighters, Sam Smith, etc. I just wanted to get a little update on how all those guys are progressing. I know a lot of them are sort of at the start of their career. They're building their records at the moment, building their CV. How are the rest of the guys getting on, Paddy?
They're doing good, brother. David Bailey fights. He's 4-0. He's having his 5th fight at the 8th of July in Bristol. Sam Smith is coming back after torn ligaments in his left hand. He'll fight again now, July 16th in the York Hall. Duke will be out again in the York Hall. And I got another 2 guys waiting to turn pro, maybe around September time.
Okay, great stuff. Now, of course, in the boxing world, we heard a bit of awful news. Really, it was going to happen one day, but it was just hard to accept. Whatever time it came at, the passing of Muhammad Ali. I know that you was well, I don't know if I can say he was your hero, but I know that you used to use a lot of his quotes. I know that he was a man that you looked up to, definitely. How do you respond to that? What's your reaction to us losing the greatest?
Listen, brother, I'm a realist. We're going to lose every single one of us. It ain't a special club. Everyone's going to pass away. It's sad when it happens, but it's fully expected with every one of us. It's sadder when a young child passes away, or somebody that hasn't lived their life. Muhammad had a full life, and not only enjoyable for himself, but also brought a lot of love and guidance towards other people. So what can you say? It's sad. It's sad for the people left behind. It's not sad for him. He's moved on now.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that I'm going to ask you, what was your favourite Ali quote?
I don't know. I suppose the quote I say most is repetition of affirmation creates belief. And when that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen.
Do you know, I knew you were going to say that one.
That's the only one I say. I don't know which other ones I say, but
that was the only one I heard. That was the only one I heard.
That's a life changer if you stick to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, there's a fight, of course, taking place next weekend. Your former fighter, George Groves, fighting Martin Murray. Now, a lot of people not giving Martin Murray much of a chance in this fight. In my opinion, Martin Murray's mixed at a higher level. How do you see this fight going, Paddy? Because it's a lot closer than a lot of people were starting to think.
I think that is a 50-50 fight down the middle. I think either man loses. It's going to be very hard for him to get the drive to get up and go again. Very, very hard. It's a 50-50 fight. George has got a world-class jab. He's probably got one of the best, most spiteful jabs in boxing in any weight division. He's got world-class power in his right hand. He's not that comfortable inside. He only started really practicing how to sit inside and work for the second Carl fight, even though that we didn't get into the second half of the fight, so he could start producing that. But in the first fight, I said, we got 9 weeks together. We're not going to get you comfortable working inside in 9 weeks. So all we're going to do is negate Carl when he's inside. So if you look at the first Carl Froch fight, George, the game plan was just to tie up Carl's left hand, keep George's left hand dressed in his face, and just kind of nudge him with it inside. So I said, if we can't win inside, at least if we can stop it appearing as if he's winning inside. So George is very new to working inside. That's where a lot of Martin Murray's best work is done. I definitely see it as a 50-50 fight because the emotions will be running high because both men know how much is on the line. I see it as an excellent matchup because they're both excellent men. George does, I would have said, clearly has the more power in his right hand. But it's not always the man with the more power that gets the job done. I see that fight really changing, and it'll become very interesting after 4 to 5 rounds, because if Martin starts negating George's jab early, he doesn't have to out-jab George, he just has to negate it. And if he can negate that early on, George is going to be in a fight that he doesn't want to be in. in saying that, when George is up against it, there is no better man that's stepping up. I think when he fought Christopher Brasi, you know, he didn't get near enough respect for that win. And I think since then, we've seen Christoph with Callum Smith and with Rocky Fielding. I think it's obvious that Christopher Brasi is a lot better than people gave him credit for when he fought George. George went into that fight half a mile away from where he got knocked out by Carl and handled a whole heap of emotions. And he dealt with them excellently. So when it is time to step up, there's no better man than George. But this is even bigger than that. This is all or nothing. This is make or break, I believe, for both men. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it in a big way.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. I like that assessment, a very accurate assessment. I agree with what you're saying. I think if it goes a few rounds, which I think it will, it'll be interesting to see in the latter parts of the fight. That'll be interesting. I know that.
You guys think about this. Triple G, Martin went 11 rounds with him. Yes, Triple G dominated the fight. I think he dominated the fight, but that doesn't mean that Martin was just getting beaten up and trying to survive. At no stage did Martin Murray go into survival mode.
Yeah,
he was
absolutely.
always mentally and emotionally trying to win that fight. And Triple G has more power in both hands. So George has a lot of power in that right hand, especially long. And now that's not to say he can't punch with his left, but as a two-handed fighter, Triple G is more of a two-handed fighter than George is when it comes to power shots. Martin only has to negate the right hand, the jab, yes, but those power shots of that right hand off George, and that's a whole different fight. And I think Martin Murray produced enough in that you would think after that fight, I wonder what's left in Martin. But then after that fight, he had a split decision with Arthur Abraham, so there's a lot left in him.
Yeah,
there's a lot left in him, and that's a cracking fight. It'll probably be one of our fights of the year.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to steal the show on the night anyway. But obviously, a lot of people know that I just wanted to literally just one sentence on this. I know that like the relationship sort of soured towards the end between you and George. I just wanted to know now, are you guys on talking terms, or is it just completely nothing?
Listen, bro, he's got a problem. I don't. There's your one sentence.
Yeah. Okay. We'll leave
that's
that.
That's all you asked for, right? That's all you asked for, right? Yeah. Well, that's what you get. He got a problem, not me.
Okay. Now, obviously, we've seen that UFC champ McGregor was linked with the Mayweather fight. I don't think that's going to be happening now. But what did you think of that when it was made? Because I know that obviously, you know, McGregor's an Irishman. He's a good fighter. He's a UFC world champ. He was just coming off of quite a brutal knockout. But could he have ever had a chance in a ring with Mayweather?
Realistically, I'm not being disrespectful to him because he's one hell of an UFC fighter. He's flipping. I think he's flipping an awesome UFC fighter. But realistically, I can't even believe you asked me that question. Mayweather is the creme de la creme, and you ain't gonna get a dude like McGregor who has not fought at the highest level as just a pure boxer to get in there and give Mayweather problems. And it doesn't matter if you say he'd have the power to cause him problems. Power ain't enough unless it's connecting. And Mayweather's been in there with all of them. I don't care if people say he picked the right fights at the right time. Mayweather is, as everyone knows by now, an all-time great. And he was not gonna have any problems in that fight, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, me neither. And lastly, I just wanted to get your opinion on Carl Frampton moving up a weight to face Santa Cruz. Obviously, you know, it's a bit of a challenge. A lot of people actually picking Santa Cruz to win this fight. What's your views on that, Paddy?
I don't know enough about Santa Cruz, to be honest with you, but I'm a big fan of Carl's. I think he understands distance excellently outside. I think he's patient inside. You know, I really like him. I really rate him. So I just don't know enough about Santa Cruz to to make an honest judgment on that. So I'll have to pass on that one.
Okay, no worries. Okay, Paddy, just before I let you go, I just wanted to thank you for giving us a bit of time this week. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. And when your guys are next on, did you say it was the 16th at York Hall, the 16th of July?
David is out in Bristol on the 8th of July. And then I got Sniper and Duke out on the 16th at the York Hall, brother, yes.
Okay, I will try and get to that one at the York Hall. But listen, Paddy, thank you very much for giving us a bit of time, and I hope to speak to you again soon.
You're more than welcome, brother. God bless.
Okay, now it's time to conclude episode 37 of the BoxHard podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Ayaz Sumra has been Ayaz Sumra. Apologies for not doing the news the last couple of shows. It's purely been our mistake, so we're sorry about that. But we brought you the news on this week's show. Ayaz likes doing that, and he was brilliant at it. And he brought us 3 pieces of really juicy news. So a massive thank you, as always, to our 2 guests that took part in this week's show. The Beast, Anthony Yarde. We cannot wait to see his progression here on the BoxHard podcast. And also Paddy Fitzpatrick, fantastic to speak to him. He's just got this voice. When he's talking, you've just got to listen. He gave a brilliant breakdown of the Groves Murray fight, really, really detailed, probably the most detailed breakdown we've had on the BoxHard podcast. It's actually made me even more excited to see that fight. So it'll be really, really interesting to see what happens after learning those things that Paddy Fitzpatrick told us. And also, as always, the biggest thank you of the lot goes to the listeners that make this show what it is. Remember, you can tweet us for a shout out. You can like, you can comment, you can retweet, and you can follow. We're on Twitter at BoxHard Podcast. We will be back next week with another big show, as always. Until then, take care.